Thanks. I had a chance to be here this morning to hear some of the other speakers, and so I tried to kind of absorb the message they were sharing with you, and it caused me to put a couple of notes down. I was taught long ago, tell people what you're going to tell them, and then remind them what you told them. And I want you to walk away informed, inspired, and driven to action. So the first thing I want to say to you that I got out of it is a famous quote based on our Secretary of Labor talking to us and several of the others, is ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. In the political environment we're in, I think that's a particularly strong message. The other message came from when we began the lean journey, and somebody said to me, we've been paying people for their hands for years, and they would have given us their hearts and their heads for free if we had only known how to ask them. The good news that I'd like to share with you is, no matter who is elected in the next month to be the most powerful person in the world, the good news is that the government is not going to make the world a better place, nor is the person elected. But we in this room can profoundly change the world as we know it. And it doesn't cost us anything other than our thoughts and our passion to care. So we're going to talk to you about truly human leadership. And truly human leadership, in simple terms, is a profound sense of responsibility for the lives of the people entrusted to you in your organization. I was interviewed once by a couple of organizational professors at Washington University. At the end of a 2-hour interview, they said to me, you know, you're the first CEO I've ever interviewed that didn't talk about his product in the entire interview. And I said, we've been talking about our product for the last 2 hours. It's our people. I will never go on my last day proud of the machines we built. I'll be proud of the impact we made on this world. So the good news is that I hope all of you are here for the same purpose. My sense is you are. That we all desperately want to use our gifts and talents and our positions to leave the world a better place than we found it. So that's the journey I'm going to take you on in this. So Barry-Wehmiller used to stand for Mr. Barry. Mr. Wehmiller now stands for building a better world through business. And I want to walk you through this journey. What's the message? Leadership is the stewardship of the lives entrusted to us. That's the first point I want you to leadership is the stewardship of those precious lives that are entrusted to us. We must create value for all stakeholders, our community, our team members, our clients, our suppliers, our bankers. We have a lot of people that depend upon us. And the good news is all you have to do is care. That's the word I want you to walk away with. All you have to do is care. I happen to live in Aspen, Colorado, and get access to the Aspen Institute Ideas Festival. And there was a New York Times op-ed columnist who's standing before many of the large donors who genuinely are doing good in the world through contributing to the Aspen Ideas Festival and leadership in the world. He made this statement: while we continue to do good in the world, could we do less harm? What he meant was, how did you make the money that allowed you to write that check? And they didn't like it at all. Okay? Because we tend to celebrate those people for their generosity to write the large checks. And what I'm going to talk to you about is the harm we do that gives us the capacity to write those checks. So, I'm going to give you some startling statistics. We had some of our previous speakers talk about raising dignity in the world, giving people a chance to have a job, raising people out of poverty. My granddaughter just graduated from Aspen High School. There were 148 kids in that class, over half of them honor students. And I felt sorry for them. Most people were cheering them as they go out into the world. But look at these statistics. 88% of all people that work in this country, 88% feel they work for an organization that does not care about them. These are your brothers, your sisters, your mothers, your fathers, your cousins, your neighbors. That is what is creating a lot of the anger and frustration in this country. We are doing that to them. Not the government, not their elected officials. We are doing that to them. And it's not just in business. It's in healthcare, it's in military, it's in education. I speak in all facets of our country, And one of the worst is healthcare. One of the worst is healthcare. We are self-inflicting damage to our people. 74% of the illnesses in this, we complain about the cost of healthcare. We try to beat up the insurance companies and the hospitals to reduce cost. Who is the largest contributor to the cost of healthcare? Business. Because 74% of all illnesses are chronic. The biggest cause of chronic illness is stress, and the biggest cause of stress is work. Here's something we learned at least recently from somebody at the Mayo Clinic. The person you report to at work is more important to your health than your primary care physician. And there's a 20% increase in heart attacks on Monday mornings when people have to go back to work. Our workplaces are killing us, and these are our children, they're our friends, it's our country. And this is not an American issue. We operate all over the world. It is a universal issue in every facet of our economy. We are self-destructing because we have not been taught to care. So I'm going to walk you through this journey. Well, as Tony Schwartz says, the way we're working isn't working. We're hurting people. And we can change it. That's the good news. We have the cure. There's a statement I made about the Mayo Clinic, which gives validity to this effort. People in the world are suffering from leadership malpractice. Okay? That's the issue we face, leadership malpractice. You can't blame them because they were never taught to care. They were taught to use. And most of us want to bring children in this world and experience it ourselves. We want to experience happiness in the time we have on the face of this earth. And Gallup did a survey around the world and found the number one source of happiness in the world is a good job working with people you enjoy. And guess what? We denied to 88% of the people in this world. Guess what we denied to your children, to your family members? We are denying them a source of happiness that everybody wants. And the good news, again, we can change it because we can, right here in this room, this conscious capitalism movement, as Raj has articulated, it's much higher than the product you produce. The purpose is much higher. It is the stewardship of those precious lives that are entrusted to you. And again, we have the power to change it. I have an undergraduate in accounting and an MBA, Indiana, and undergraduate Michigan graduate, and then I worked at Price Waterhouse. I reflect back on what I was taught to prove you want to be successful, it's money, power, and position. And let me help you do that. And creating shareholder value, not stakeholder value. I always viewed people as objects. I needed to hire people to get functions done. It was always for me and my success when I look back on it. And as I said, success is money, power, and position. I was never, ever taught that the way I would lead would affect the way people would live their lives. Never. Truly human leadership, actually, we called it people-centric leadership, and Simon Sinek came in and spent 2 days with us, and he couldn't believe what he saw. He said, I'm no longer a nutty idealist. I've just seen what I imagined, a world where people love their job and go home each night safe, happy, and fulfilled. And it's about people, purpose, and performance. In that sequence, it starts with the fundamental responsibility to the lives of the people that are entrusted to you, around a purpose that inspires them to share their gifts fully, and then you have to create value. That is the 3 P's of our leadership model, and it takes all 3. Not 2, all 3. People, purpose, and performance. So let me walk you on this a journey that we had. First, as Raj mentioned, I inherited my dad died at 30, $18 million broken industrial company that was about 100 years old, and pretty much broke. And over the decade, over the 40-some years, 1969, I joined the company. I built it into a multinational, $2.5 billion company. The Walton family is our largest shareholder. They own about 10%. And we have built that through acquisitions. So if you think it's hard for your company that began organically and grew, we are 85 acquisitions blended together around the world in France, Germany, Italy, India, England, United States, all over the United States. So We have achieved this in a challenging environment. And for those of you who think we might be a nice family company that can do nice things, we have a unique share price methodology that emulates public markets, that trades every 6 months into a small group of people. We have about 500 shareholders. And our share price has gone up, compounded 15% a year for 25 years. So in the economic downturn, when most stocks went down, our share price only went up 11% that year. So we're not a nonprofit. We create value, and we're focused on all stakeholders. Now, let me walk you through the revelations that shaped the Barry-Wehmiller Truly Human Leadership. The first was in 1997 in March. We bought a company in South Carolina, and I flew down there to be there. It was a $55 million company, and I flew down there, and they make machines that make bags of chips. They make the machine that forms the bag and fills the chips. And I went down there because a very old company, historic product line, a lot of aftermarket revenue, so I was going to meet with the customer service team. I was in the 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning, having a cup of coffee in the lunchroom. Nobody knew who I was, and so I was just observing behavior. And of course, in March, everybody's got the basketball pool in the office about which team's winning, which team's not winning. It was all about, and you could see people having fun. And the closer it got to 8 o'clock, you could just see the fun go out of their body to do their job. I don't even think you can say the word job with a smile, okay? I don't think you can say the word work with a smile. And I said to myself, in hindsight, why can't work be fun? Because that's when people express their gifts most fully in sporting events and extracurricular activity. So why can't we make work fun? And so I walked into a conference room with the customer service team with no agenda, and out of me popped some ideas. We're going to play a game. Whoever sells the most each week wins $100, and if the team makes the team goal 100. I had no idea where that idea came from. I'd never done it before. It wasn't on my agenda. But I was astounded what happened. First of all, they had 24 reasons that would not work. And I had 24 answers why it would, even though I'd never given an ounce of thought. And what we saw is a profound sense of joy come into their jobs because they could go home every night knowing exactly where they were. They knew where they were for the week. They knew where they were individually. They could talk to their family about it. And customer service improved, delivery improved, performance improved. Sales went up actually 20%. And so we learned from that, and we started applying this to other facets of our business where we could create some way people could have some fun and compete aligned with value creation for the organization. So that was the first revelation for me because I'd never tried it before, never seen it, and we saw profound changes in human behavior. The second, Cynthia and I are Episcopalians. We were at church. My mentor was the rector of our church, and I was inspired every week that somebody could stand up before us and inspire us to live a life of meaning and purpose. So I got up one week from church, and I looked over at Cynthia, and I said, Cynthia, I just realized something. She said, what's that? And I said, Ed's only got us for 1 hour a week, and we have people in our care for 40 hours a week. We are 40 more times powerful to impact people's lives than the church. We are, I said that day, in business, the most powerful force for good because of the time we have people in our care and the impact we make on our lives. So that was the second defining moment in my journey to truly human leadership. The third, and the one people relate to the most, because as some of the fathers and mothers in this room will know, that giving your daughter away at a wedding, seeing your daughter being married is a meaningful experience. I was at a wedding. A friend of mine was walking his daughter down the aisle, and everybody was oohing and ahhing how beautiful and precious she was. The father walked with great pride as he took his precious daughter down that aisle. As he got to the altar, he took the hand of his daughter, and he gave it to this young man, said, her mother and I give our daughter to be wed to this young man, and he sits down next to his wife, and they cuddle each other. Very cute. For some reason, again, my mind went to a totally different place. And I'm sure you imagine where it went, because I said to myself, that's not what that father wanted to say. That's what he was told to say at the rehearsal. What he wanted to say was, look at young man, Her mother and I brought this precious child into this world. We've given her every ounce of love we can give so she can be the person she's intended to be. And we expect through the marriage, the union of the two of you, for you to stand in and become a steward also of this precious young lady, as she will be to you, so she can be whoever she's meant to be. Do you understand that, young man? And I said to myself that day, all 11,000 of our people are somebody's precious child. They are no longer an engineer, an accountant, a receptionist, an assembly worker, a salesperson. They are somebody's precious child who my leadership will have a profound impact on their life. And nothing was ever the same again. Because when you view people no longer as functions for your success, but as somebody's precious life that has been entrusted to you, and that you know your initiatives will profoundly affect that life, it changes everything. It did for me, and that was the kind of the crowning moment of these three revelations that created truly human leadership. So I want to talk to you about our guiding principles. About this time, our marketing team was doing a video on the success of the company. The company was doing very well, growing through acquisitions. And we might have been 400 million then. And they came towards the end of the video, and they had all these great expressions from people. And they said, we want to kind of end with kind of an upbeat. So we want to talk in the compound growth rate of our sales, the profitability, the share price, our market share. And this, you have to understand the environment. The environment was the Enron scandal and the Monica Lewinsky scandal, where leadership in our country, in all facets of our country, government, business, was at the lowest point in probably history. People couldn't trust us. They couldn't believe in us. And I said to myself, you know, we define success all wrong in this country. We introduce people around money, power, and position. And I know many people with money, power, and position who have miserable personal lives. And so I said, again, out of me popped this thought. We are going to measure success by the way we touch the lives of people. Our shareholders, our customers, our suppliers, our bankers. That is how we're going to measure success. And that became our golden rule, upon which everything we do started there. So if we're going to do this, how is it going to affect the lives of people? So that has become a very powerful driving force because we know what we stand for. Now I want to tell you, we bought a company in Green Bay that Raj mentioned that makes about a $200 million business that makes tissue equipment for people like Kimberly-Clark, Georgia Pacific. And 80-year-old company that we bought that was financially struggling dramatically. We took over the company and we brought production back from Brazil, but we were introducing these leadership principles. And so we had a global conference of all of our presidents in Green Bay, and the night before I got an email from the VP of Operations. He said, Bob, you know, the team has done some lean initiatives around our principles of caring for people, some unique ways of approaching lean. We call it L3. And you ought to go out and acknowledge what they've done before the meeting starts. I said, well, why don't you just invite them to come into our meeting? So these three gentlemen, UAW team members, one non-union team member, walked in front of all of our presidents the next morning. They came in at 7 o'clock in the morning and said, you're going to go talk. And they talked the language. They stood up in front of us. Steve was one of them. And they talked the language of business. We came together. We shared ideas. We improved quality. We reduced lead time. We reduced cost. We shipped it on time, and the customer was satisfied. It was all about numbers. The language of business is all about numbers. Again, I had another moment. The moment was, I looked at this gentleman, Steve, who I'd never met, who worked in assembly, and I said, Steve, how did it affect your life? Now, here's a guy that just walked in to do his job, and the chairman of the company's asked him how it affected his life. So what did he tell me? He told me the truth. He said, my wife is talking to me. And I said, I don't understand. He said, you know what it's like to work in a place before you bought the company, where you go into work every day, you punch in, you're told what to do, nobody ever asks you what you think, you get 10 things right and you never hear a word, you get one thing wrong and you get your ass chewed out. They complain about your salary, they complain about costs, and they don't even give you the things you need to do the job. He said, I now realize in that environment when I went home at night, and he'd been in the company for 30 years. He said, I used to go home at night and take my baseball hat off and throw it in the door. If my hat came flying back, I knew I better go get a beer, because my wife was not going to be in a mood to talk to me. He said, since we embrace these leadership principles and we come together with the aspiration to make things better, continuous improvement, people ask me what I think so I can contribute to making it better, and I get to see those ideas into action. He said, I now realize when I go home, I'm a nicer person. And when he said, and you know what? When I'm nice to my wife, she talks to me. And I said, Steve, we're going to change the metrics in lean to the reduction in the divorce rate in America. Now, 2 weeks later, I was in the mountains hiking with my daughter, we have 6 kids and 22 grandkids, but I was hiking with my daughter who has 3 kids, she's about 40. And Beverly from Dallas, who had a TV program on family counseling, was with us. And I said, Jennifer, Beverly's a famous TV person in Dallas who had this class or this program on family counseling. So Jennifer asked her the same thing you would ask her. She said, Beverly, what's the most important thing in raising good children? Beverly paused a minute and said, our research shows the most important thing in raising good kids is a good marriage. I said, bingo. When we send 88% of the people home in this country feeling not valued, what are we doing? We're destroying the family unit in our country, because the husband, the wife don't feel valued, and we know for a fact that they treat their family to some extent as a result of the way they have been treated for 40 hours a week. We know that for a fact, because when we began teaching leadership in our university, in our internal university, 90% of the feedback we get from calling people to be better leaders is about how it affects their marriage and their relationship with their kids. What could be more meaningful? So Steve made us realize that the way we lead, the Mayo Clinic statement, the way we lead affects the way people live their personal lives. I never heard that in business. Nobody ever taught me that. I never read it in a book. I never heard it. The way you lead your organization affects the next generation, because you affect the way people parent and live their personal lives. The other thing we do that's kind of unique is, along this journey, when I was, and you'll notice a lot of these things relate to parenting. When I got out of graduate school at Price Waterhouse, I had a broken business, so I tried to use the management and the classes I learned and the experience I had at Price Waterhouse to fix the business. Over here, we had 6 kids, and I was trying to learn how to be a good parent. What happened in the 80s and 90s is that everything I learned about being a good parent was about leadership. What's parenting? The stewardship of the precious lives that come into our family through birth, adoption, or second marriage that you all take very seriously. What is leadership? The stewardship of the precious lives that walk into your life every day through your office and plant doors, whose life you make a profound impact on. So parenting and leadership is the stewardship of the lives entrusted to you. Create an environment where they can be who they're intended to be towards a common purpose. So one of the things we learned in parenting is, if you don't provide 7 compliments, 7 positive statements to every one statement that could help your child be better, you're going to create an oppressive young child. You have to dramatically catch them doing things more right than wrong for them to receive the things that they could do better. So when I told you that most business people feel that they get 10 things right and never hear a word, and get 1 thing wrong, what do we do in business? Just the opposite, okay? We focus on what they didn't do right and don't spend enough time on what they did right. So we decided to shine a light in our organization to catch people doing things right. We have all kinds of awards now. One of our awards is called our Guiding Principle of Leadership, where we get people to nominate somebody who exemplifies our guiding principles of leadership by their behavior. They're nominated by peers and picked by their peers. And then we have a ceremony where we put this Chevy SSR sports car out front, and we have 17 of these going around the country. And we have a BMW convertible in Europe. And we read out the qualities of the winner, the attributes the nomination, the committee picked, and all the positive statements made. And then we say, Mary or Bill, would you come forward? So as Mary and Bill come forward to get to the keys and be recognized, their family, their aunt, their uncle, their brother, their pastor, walk out the side door to see their precious relative, parent, recognized for their goodness. They are immensely emotional experiences when you stand there being recognized for your goodness. And people tell us three things. I've interviewed at least 500 winners. First of all, it's the most significant recognition of their life. Number two, the first thing they do is call their spouse to tell them they won. And number three, bad news for the men in the room, good news for the women. Men and women tell us the first that they say they take their mother for a ride. Never do they say they take their father for a ride. So I got into it and said, why? Why is it the most significant? Because it's from their peers who they work with. Nothing is more significant. The CEO of the company could do it. It wouldn't mean as much as from their peers. Number two, they call their spouse to tell them they won. That's the words they use, but behind those words is this meaning. Boy, are you lucky to be married to me. I just got picked by 500 people as a great leader. And number three, they took their mother for a ride. What are our fathers? Our fathers are generally our source of achievement, right? What are our mothers? Our source of goodness. And what is this award for? It's for their goodness. This young lady in Baltimore heard me give this speech. She had won the car 2 weeks before. Her name's Ruth. She came up to me afterwards and said, Mr. Chapman, I agree with everything you just said. But I want you to know something, that my mother died about 2 years ago. But I want you to know that I did take the car by the cemetery to show my mother. Why? Because even when our parents are not here, we want them desperately to know we turned out okay. So we teach in our university recognition and celebration like we are supposed to know as parents. How to let people know that who they are and what they do matters. And when you do that thoughtfully, timely, and appropriately, it is the most precious gift you can give anybody. So recognition and celebration is a key part of our goal. Simon Sinek is, my kids accuse me of, he's our seventh child, but Simon Sinek has embraced, he's our biggest spokesman in the world. He wrote the foreword to my book. And again, we have, this evening, we're showing a very short documentary we did on this journey so that future generations would know of this journey. And we have about 130 books for those of you who have not had our book, because we hope to make a difference in the world. Simon Sinek made this observation after studying Barry-Wehmiller and working with the Air Force. In the military, we honor those who are willing to sacrifice themselves so that others may gain. And in business, we give bonuses to those who are willing to sacrifice others so that we may gain. XYZ company lays off 5,000 people, share price goes up. Good job. So you got your share price up. Good job. What about the 5,000 people? We need to get rid of some of the deadwood. You know, it's inevitable. We just are taught not to care. We are taught not to care. They were just objects for our success. Simon would say, why can't we teach? Why can't we teach in our universities leaders to genuinely care about the privilege of leadership, the profound responsibility? Why can't we instill that in our leaders in all facets of our country? So I think what we learned along the journey, leadership is the stewardship of the lives entrusted you, just like parenting. It doesn't mean acting like a parent. It means genuinely caring. And we know parenting, when we say the word genuinely caring, is not about giving our kids what they want. It is doing the right thing so that our children can become who they're intended to be. We have found at every level in organization, at every level, people genuinely want to know that who they are and what they do matters. And when you thoughtfully share with them that they do matter, it is the most profound gift that you can give them. And it calls them to levels of fulfillment you can't imagine. The other thing I could give a whole talk on is that we discovered along this journey, I was always taught if you cared for somebody, you would go over and talk to them. And we have found out that when you care about somebody, you listen to them with empathy. Brene Brown is an expert in that. She talks about the difference between sympathy and empathy. The first class in Barry-Wehmiller University you have to take you have to take, you have no choice, is communication skills training. It's a 3-day intense course in empathetic listening, and the biggest feedback from virtually 99% of the people is it changed my life. And from young mothers, they say to us, I now know how to raise my children. Instead of talking to my children, I'm listening to my children. And finally, how we lead. When you look at those people in your care, in your companies, in your particular department, when you look at those people and you realize they are somebody's precious child, that your leadership will materially affect their fulfillment and the fulfillment of their family and their kids. We can make, there's nothing our government can do compared to what you can do when you walk out of this room if we walk out committed to be good stewards of the lives entrusted to us. So how we lead profoundly impacts the way people live. While we are all trying to do good in the world, and that's the fundamental premise of conscious capitalism, can we do less harm? Can we not hurt people as we achieve our goals? And really, all you have to do is genuinely care about the people whose lives are entrusted to you. If you don't want to carry a book home in your suitcase, or you don't want one, you can. This is the Crip Notes. This is the short version. Everybody wants to do better. Everybody wants to do better. Trust them. Leaders are everywhere. Find them. People achieve good things, big and small. Celebrate them. Some people wish things were different. Listen to them. Everybody matters. Everybody wants to do better. Trust them. Leaders are everywhere. Find them. So our message, the reason we wrote the book is we believe we were blessed with a leadership model for some reason that we think could profoundly change the world you live in, that your future generations will live in, and that we could profoundly become a more human world where people validate each other by the way we treat each other. Bill Urey, a professor at Harvard, who's a world peace negotiator, wrote the book Getting to Yes, who's been negotiating world peace for 30 years. Bill Urey's statement about Barry-Wehmiller is it's the answer to world peace. Because when people feel valued and they listen to each other, conflict in the world goes, in our families, in our companies, in the world goes down. And we can do this tomorrow. So we are showing tonight, we put together a documentary, I think it's 30 minutes long, of this journey. We've been just releasing it. And the purpose of it, more than anything, is to capture this journey so that future generations will know how we got to where we are and genuinely caring. We also created Barry-Wehmiller Leadership Institute because people are virtually coming in from all over the world. And we've had McKinsey's top partner in leadership, Harvard, Bob Keegan of Harvard. Bill Urey I mentioned, Amy Cuddy, the #2 TED Talk. Amy Cuddy said she thought places like this only existed in her head. It's as close to utopia as she ever saw. Bob Keegan of Harvard said it gives him hope. And so we believe the only reason we're sharing this, the only reason is because we believe it's a gift we've been given, and we are called to share it with you. So my hope is that we've awakened in you, in your movement to conscious capitalism, that it's not just about the product, it's about the lives of the people entrusted to you. Thank you for the opportunity to be before you.